What's up, guys? AngryPickle521 here with some Battlefield 3 Endgame. And you might be wondering, I thought this was a Endgame review. And why is there Crisis 3 in the beginning? Well, I felt like I haven't I haven't put any Crisis 3 gameplay video, whatever, out to you guys, and I really enjoy the game. I really want to post more of it, so I just thought that would be a good little intro or little cutscene to put in. But now let's get into the Endgame DLC. I do really enjoy it. It's probably one of the better DLCs, let's say, out of most of them. So overall, this DLC has a few flaws, but they can easily be fixed, as well as some amazing attributes that will just make your Battlefield 3 experience a little more interesting and exciting from the boring, if it's gotten boring for you, usual. But I'd just like to take a second to talk about what I plan on posting next. I'm guessing I'm going to end up putting up Crisis 3, of course, like I've said, and as well as probably some War Thunder. I've been playing the heck out of War Thunder. I really enjoy that game. Frankie on PC introduced it to me through some of his videos. If you don't know who he is, definitely check him out. He's an amazing YouTuber, and I feel he deserves some, if any, of the credit that I get for making these War Thunder videos, when I do, of course. Then also, new news about DayZ has been released, and standalone should be probably coming out soon, relatively, and I really am looking forward to that and planning on playing it. But now let's get into Endgame. So if you didn't know, the two modes that come with it are Capture the Flag and Air Superiority. Now, both are equally interesting in themselves, but I'd say that Capture the Flag is probably the more interesting and exciting of the two. It's a little more fast-paced, and definitely you get a lot more interesting moments, and definitely some intense gameplay. And along with this intense and exciting gameplay, you get in a lot of truly awesome moments with the dirt bike. Like, say I jump off, grab the flag, jump back on to my dirt bike and start driving towards my base. The whole enemy team, at least if they're playing the objective right, should run after you, and it just makes the game so exciting and so adrenaline rushing, if that's a word, that it just makes me really want to keep playing Capture the Flag. But as I said, as in most DLCs, there's definitely some flaws with them. The flaw with this one, on this specific game mode, in fact, is that if you get into a 64-man server, you find yourself getting into a lot of positions where the your base and the enemy base is being spawn camped, or the entire enemy team is just camping in their spawn. But I have found a way around this. It would be just don't go into 64-player servers. That is the main thing you want to stray away from during Capture the Flag, or when you're playing Capture the Flag. Just don't do it. I'm telling you, you won't enjoy it unless you're a guy who likes to camp in the spawn and just set C4 and mines all over the place. I mean, if you're trying to unlock the camo for the Scar H, I guess that could work out for you. But if you want the intense and exciting engagements I was talking about earlier, you definitely want to play on a 32 or lower man server. Now to talk about vehicles. The vehicle that makes the biggest impact on Capture the Flag, I'd say, is the motorcycle. The motorcycle definitely gives Capture the Flag its fast-paced nature, and without it, I'd say that the gameplay would turn bland, and the rounds would drag out way too long and become very uninteresting, and it would lose the engaging trait that makes Capture the Flag so good. And now to the new Air Superiority mode. Now, I don't want to sound cruel or anything, but putting jets in the sky is about as good as putting tanks everywhere. Now, if you didn't quite understand that, I'm referencing the Armored Kill Tank Superiority mode. That wasn't all that big of a success, I'd say. I never really played it, and it seemed like you always had to be in a tank to do anything. Now, this is definitely the same for Endgame's Air Superiority mode. But in this case, you are in fact forced to stay in your jet and spawn in a jet, which I guess isn't all that bad. Isn't my main problem with Armored Kill's Tank Superiority mode was that I couldn't ever get into a tank. Now, I don't know quite how well this mode turned out in previous Battlefields, but I know in Battlefield 3, it's just not quite my kind of mode. It's very hard to keep a positive KD, and I admit that I'm not the best pilot in the world. Now, I'd much rather like to get into a smaller 1v1 or 1v2 dogfights that I've come to enjoy in the past year or so that I've played Battlefield 3. I like the short and sweet nature of these dogfights as opposed to the 50 heat seekers locking onto you all the time that you get from Air Superiority mode. Now, back to CTF. I feel like I left out a few things about vehicles and such. Surprisingly, tanks, choppers, LEVs, IFVs, whatever you want to call them, are not all that overpowered on Capture the Flag. You'd think that the tanks and choppers would probably be taking the flags all the time, but that's truly not the case. It seems like just the slow and quick, speedy nature of the motorcycles and how they're able to weed in and out of things so quickly really makes them the dominant way to carry the flag. That's not to say that tanks and choppers are never carrying the flag. It's just saying that the tanks and choppers and things like that are usually taking the most fire from enemies, and they also pose the most threat to the other team's victory in succeeding to capture your flag. By this part of the video, you guys might be getting a little bored. There hasn't been all that many interesting things going on, and you might be hoping that I am not going to drag this on forever. Well, we're only about halfway through the video, so here are some interesting recordings that I was able to pick up. Alright, so did that make you guys all excited and wanting to watch the rest of the video? Please don't hit that back button or go to the rest of your subscriptions and watch other videos, because, like I said, we're only about halfway through this thing, so hold on with me. I know it might be a little long, but overall this might help you a little bit in your endgame experience. So now we are moving on to the Rush gameplay, which is usually one of the better game modes in all of the DLCs and maps of Battlefield. Before, I found myself always playing Dam Event Peak to get my fill of Rush, but now I think that if there's servers out there, which I surprisingly have not been seeing all that much of, then I will definitely play a lot more Rush on the endgame DLC maps. I say this because I find the Rush maps on this endgame DLC to be very linear, and the motorcycle really adds to that. It's a poor excuse for a name, but in my opinion, on the Rush game mode, endgame should be changed to Flank game, because if you're able to get into a motorcycle, maybe with a nice little squad of motorcycle guys, and then you should really be able to take advantage of the flanking that these maps have to offer, and the really dynamic gameplay that can come from that. But also, as you see here, I found that sniping can be a real help to your team in stopping these people from flanking if you're defending. Because on Sevlon Pipeline, right here, on this, I think this is the last station of Rush objectives, if you want to call it that. I can't really think of it, but if you're able to control the hill, I'd say, and the roads in front of it, then you're definitely going to dominate in defending if you get pushed back this far. Overall, I'd say that the Rush for endgame is very good, and even possibly better than the rush on after the Aftermath DLC, which everyone knows that rush was pretty good too. And now, almost finally, I have some interesting tips on Conquest that might be helpful to those of you who enjoy Conquest and those of you who might be new to Conquest, as I know a lot of people may not have enjoyed it in the previous maps, but I find that the way that the maps are designed, Conquest really works on them. I'd say Conquest on the endgame DLC is basically the only mode that you're gonna want to or can play enjoyably with 64 players. Just that map design, I can't get across that or past that. It's just very, very good. And also, the maps just look beautiful. So you can see here, this map I'd say it's Kayasar Railroad, I believe. I'd say it's one of the most beautiful looking maps that DICE has developed so far for Battlefield 3. Now, I don't want to stray too off topic, but map design is definitely very important, and especially whenever you're talking about spawn camping. Previously, in other Conquest maps, or basically all other maps, I've found that spawn camping has been a real issue, but surprisingly, with these maps, I have not found it to be an issue. Now, that's still up for debate, as the DLC's only been out for about, half a week or so. So I'm not going to set that in stone, but from what I've seen so far, spawn camping has not been all that much of an issue. Now, here is one of my favorite parts about the Conquest in Endgame. The paratrooper, or parachuting rather, from the C-130, which is basically the same as the AC-130 from Armored Kill, but it doesn't have any guns. Now, at first, when the Armored Kill DLC came out, I felt that the AC-130 was really a game breaker, but this is the complete opposite with the C-130 in the Endgame DLC. Instead of blasting people away, or like I said earlier, spawn camping, spawn trapping, base raping, whatever, the C-130 really adds just a whole new level to the maps, and can really turn the tides of a battle for the better or even for the worse if your team doesn't take advantage of them. Now, if you may have been watching, the motorcycle is really helping me out on getting around and also taking out some enemies on these conquests on Endgame. So you might have also, in fact, noticed how I take flags or take objectives with the motorcycle. You spin around. I find this to be a great tip. Unless you're going up against mines or C4, it's not very effective. But you just basically are going donuts around the flag or near the flag so you can capture it, and it becomes very difficult for the enemies to shoot you. Alright, and now to the new gun that comes with the Endgame DLC. So to unlock this, you have to complete the assignments, Defender of the Earth, Star-Spangled Banner, Fatal Drop, Road Warrior, and All About Precision. I would definitely say that this S-TAC is the hardest gun to unlock for any assignment that DICE has ever given us. Basically, to sum up the assignments that you have to do, though you can always go back and look at the full ones in the section I just showed a few seconds ago, you basically have to blow stuff up, break some skulls in, and run over people in the motorcycle. While this is very exaggerated, but very true, the hardest assignment for sure would be Fatal Drop. It is a pain in the butt. You might play Endgame hours and hours and hours on end, but you still might not get these assignments done for Fatal Drop. I am not kidding, it's that difficult. While I didn't record me accomplishing these because they would just take so much space up on my hard drive, I I do, however, have some tips that might help you in the long run. So first of all, you're going to want to find yourself getting into a 24 or below population server. This will really boost your chances in being able to get into the paradropped IFV. Second, make sure that you always have the flag that controls the C-130. Usually it's in the center of the map, but if you have that, it definitely also boosts your chances in getting into it. But right after you capture said flag, you're going to want to commit suicide, because sometimes the IFV spawns in right after you take the objective. And lastly, just make sure you do what the assignment says. I can't tell you how many choppers I've shot down in the paradropped IFV, not knowing that the chopper is not a transport vehicle. But then, once you have all these assignments finished, it is a quite easy little stretch to get the STAC, as you only have to get 20 headshots with a pistol. It seems a little too good to be true, but it is in fact true, and it is very rewarding once you do get it. But that is about it for my endgame review. I'll have more on the STAC later. I don't really want to get into the stats and everything and how I enjoy it, but yeah, like I said, for a later episode. So that's about it. Thank you for watching. This is AngryPickle521 signing out.